Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure if you knew, but the SSPX is not in schism. In fact, I wrote a book defending that position, SSPX The Defense, which is available on Amazon right now. And thank you to everyone who bought it. Over the weekend, it was #1 on the Amazon bestsellers list for Catholic books. I think right now it's #3 behind The Diary of Faustina and something else. I think Faustina's diary is always near the top. I don't say this to aggrandize myself, but I say this because this points to the fact that the faithful crave the true information about Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre and the Society of St. Pius X. Well, thanks to Bishop Hollander, I think I pronounced that properly, we now know that Pope Francis also knows that the SSPX is not in schism. A little bit of background. Bishop Hollander, I think I pronounced that correctly, has been spending a lot of time with the SSPX for the last 3-4 years. I think it started in 2015, but I think he's actually been boarding with them and living in their communal life for a while. I'm not up to date on all the specifics of that, but you can find out more by watching this documentary series. But I did know he was there, and he took to studying the life of Archbishop Lefebvre and the SSPX. Basically, you could think of it kind of like sending a retired bishop who was known to be a good man of the church to sort of really take some time and study this whole SSPX thing, this whole Marcel Lefebvre thing, and get to the bottom of it. And he came to a realization about the SSPX that people of goodwill do. And I'm going to share that with you here. It's in Austrian German. So I'm just going to show it on screen and then just say it in English with the translation. And then he makes it very clear that Pope Francis says the SSPX are not schismatics. Let's just share this here. So we see here, oops, let's go here. So anyone who delves into the faith or into the historical development of the life of the SSPX, and these subtitles they uploaded them themselves. It's not just a Google one. These are accurate. Okay. Anyone who delves into the historical development and life of the SSPX, involuntarily encounters the cause and the roots of this crisis. He's referring to the crisis in the church. For the SSPX is, in a certain sense, a child of this crisis. It is so insofar as its founder wanted to react to the crisis by setting up this institution and thus help the church. I'm very grateful to the bishop for saying this, because I think this is a really great way of saying it. Archbishop Lefebvre started the Society of St. Pius X for the church, not for the priests of the SSPX per se, although of course for those priests insofar as they were under him, but those priests are for the Catholic Church. They're for the Catholic faithful. It's not about a particular group, it's about the faith. And he continues. He was mainly concerned with the faith of the church and the insecure and abandoned faithful. Following what happened after Vatican II, many people became sheep without shepherd. For the Archbishop, the reason for action was primarily the salvation of souls, as well as the preservation of the purity of the faith. Excellently put. Absolutely perfect. People will say, well, did Archbishop Lefebvre think that he was the only one who could transmit the Catholic faith? No, the purity of the faith. There are many parishes in the world where you get pieces of the faith. There are many seminaries out there that do a pretty decent job of forming seminarians. But there's a difference between okay and pure. If you're going to feed your children, do you want to give them food that has a little bit of poison in it because most of it's good? Or do you want them to give food that has no poison in it? Pretty obvious answer. Archbishop Lefebvre wanted the children of the church to be fed the pure, unadulterated nourishment of Holy Mother Church without any arsenic. And this bishop understands this quite well. He continues. For faith is the path to salvation. Therefore, it must not be falsified. It is from this principle that the SSPX and its founder must be viewed and judged. It is in this sense that Pope Francis spoke to me and said, quote, the SSPX are not schismatics. Now, I'm sure that there is some Pope-splainer out there. I'd love to see the Pope-splainers talk about this. Say how they always like to go for translations. So really, Pope Francis, He was speaking Spanish to a man who spoke Austrian German, and the translation was wrong, and Pope Francis actually said they are schismatics, and then YouTube translated, keep going with this. This man is a beloved bishop of the church. He was worked very closely with Pope Francis, throughout his time as a bishop and whoever else he was under. He is not some sort of radical reactionary, very measured man who was sent here. I've heard very good things from those who know him. He has lived in the spirit of the SSPX, has studied the works of its founder. He understands the spirit of Marcel Lefebvre. He understands the spirit of tradition, and he says exactly what Pope Francis said to him. Now, you have to understand something here, ladies and gentlemen. Do you really think that this man would be saying something that was a lie? You're going to have to indict this man. You're going to have to indict His Excellency as being a liar. Those of you out there who are the anti-SSPX schismatics, because that's what you are causing division in the church by calling the SSPX schismatic when they're not. The definition of schism is separating yourself from the church or unity, or from the unity of other Catholics. If you're going around telling other Catholics that they're not Catholic, you are schismatic. You're going to have to say that this man is lying. You're going to have to say that Pope Francis didn't really say that. You're going to have to say that you know better than the proverbial horse's mouth. The Pope of the Catholic Church is very aware that the SSPX are not schismatics. The SSPX has never been in schism. Archbishop Lefebvre was never in schism. And I'm going to add something else here before I sign off. You got to understand something. If someone is a true schismatic, they actually leave the church. They have to do something to come back. What has the SSPX done to, quote unquote, come back? Have they changed their way of operating? They haven't changed a thing. In fact, they've expanded and done more, and they're in more places, and they train more priests and have more chapels. They've continued as is. And it's Rome who has made herself come closer to the position of the SSPX. It's not the SSPX that's moved closer to Rome in the institutional sense. Rome in the eternal, the seat of the church has never left the faith. This is a promise we have. Read Taylor Marshall's book. I think it's called Eternal City. It's a great book about Rome. The society has stayed the course because tradition is the trajectory. And the hierarchy of Rome and the institutions of Rome over the years have come to realize that the society has always been due north and that the institutions of the church must get in line with that. And again, it's not about the society. It's about tradition. It's about the Catholic faith. It's about the purity of doctrine. Pope Francis has said that the SSPX is not in schism. Those of you who like to make videos saying the SSPX is in schism, please tell me why you are disobeying the Pope. Inquiring minds would like to know. You see, the Byzantines, I love the Byzantines. Eastern Catholics, got tons of love for them. But obviously, a long time ago, they were in schism. What did they do? They came back to Rome, thanks be to God. They had to change. They had to do something different, and they were welcomed back in the fold. They didn't just continue as is. The SSPX has continued as is. But for the podcast magisterium, for the YouTube, the YouTube Sanhedrin out there, who likes to concern itself with going after the SSPX with every moment of the day, you are now going to have to explain to us why, of course, this bishop doesn't know as much as you, why, of course, he doesn't really know what Pope Francis said, and why you know better. If you are someone who consistently goes after the SSPX, at a certain point, you're gonna have to ask yourself a question, kind of like, what happened to you? Why are you filled with such a hardness of heart? Why, after endless amounts of information saying the opposite of what you say, do you persist and continue to deceive and confuse and divide the Catholic faithful? Why? Why? Why do you do that? Why do you hate the church so much? Why do you hate tradition so much? Why do you hate souls? And why do you hate to follow the desires of the Holy Father? These are questions you're going to have to ask yourself. The evidence is clear. The SSPX are not schismatics. Pope Francis said this. We already knew this. If you'd like to know more, you can check out my book. Links for that are in the description. Thank you to everyone who's bought it. But this restoration of tradition in the church is not going to end. And one day, when all is said and done, we're all going to understand, it's going to be fully clear. Marcel Lefebvre was a great saint. He was the Saint Athanasius of our time. He was the Judah Maccabee of our time. He cleansed the holy temples. He put things right, and he gave us the traditional Catholic priesthood, which is the only way the church will survive. Let me know what you think in the comments. This has been the Kennedy Report. Until next time, God bless.